Hi Scorpio, welcome to your June 2019 General Tarot reading. It's Raina here. I am starting over again. I was trying to get through it. There was like some people talking loudly outside, and so here goes this version. And one thing I wanted to note is that there are 4 out of 6 major arcana cards. So this might be a month that is memorable for you in 2019. At the heart of the matter, we have the Temperance card, which is connected to Sagittarius. So if you have a Sagittarian in your life, or if you meet somebody who's a Sagittarian who makes a big impact on you, that could be what is going on. You notice that this angel has 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land. This can be the combination of practical and spiritual, or material and spiritual. So, for instance, a career, a job that, is a healing or a spiritual type of job, but you're still making money from it. And temperance can be moderation. I think of Scorpio as an extreme sign, and I don't necessarily always mean that in a bad way. I mean that Scorpio tends to feel very strongly about things. I think that can be very good. I prefer people who have very strong opinions on things versus people who just are indifferent almost. Some people act like they don't care, and it isn't because they are just so balanced. It's because they just don't even really, they're going through the motions in their life. Scorpio people are very passionate in a very personal sort of way. So the fact that you may be like moderating yourself could be because you have had to cut something off or kind of slow something down. Temperance is associated with sobriety, so even that, when somebody has an addiction, it's like an obsession, you could say. And when they let it go, it's really letting go of an obsession and putting the emphasis in a different direction. This is one of the reasons why when somebody is letting go of an addiction, sometimes they move their obsession from one area to another, but they still have that obsession. So, and especially if a person has that kind of like mentality, they have to really guard against not replacing one addiction for another. But in general, this can be a great card for anything that involves I think like calming down one's life in some way, and maybe taking it easier if you've been through a very intense period. We have in the past position the Hangman, and this may even be like somehow being forced to kind of like let go of a need for something to happen. This is a card of surrender. This is a card of letting go and letting God, and it can be like even a waiting period. So for instance, let's say that you're interested in somebody who's a Sagittarius and they're not available. Maybe they're still married or something like that. And you have to kind of wait for them to get divorced, or, maybe they live in a different country or something like that. And you have to simply allow things to take their course. And, if you have a tendency to get like so obsessive about it, you have to kind of chill out. In terms of work matters, this may even be like letting up. Maybe you had 2 jobs and you had to like let it go because you're getting burnt out. Or maybe like even you want a certain job and you really want it, but it hasn't come to pass yet, and you just have to chill out and maybe have hopes that it is going to make it, because or even like your own, if you've started your own business and you really want it to succeed, and you have to kind of like let go. I think of the hangman, people sometimes they are trying to make something happen and they just really want it to happen. And if they don't see those initial signs, they can double down and be even more almost like attached to it working out. And I always think that the casual approach, the more like detached approach, is better than that, because you don't want to ever put all your eggs into one basket where you need a certain outcome or else. No, that's not true. But I could see a Scorpio person doing that just because of that extreme personality and that intensity of just thinking that this, pinning all your hopes on something. And that's why tempering your expectations can be more effective. And with the hangman, it's about surrender. And the word surrender should not be construed to mean I give up. This can't work out. No, it's like I've done all I can. Now I'm leaving this over to the universe. And of course I forgot to close the door. So now you can hear everything outside. I mean window. But anyway, the thing that is part of when they talk about the law of attraction, there's a part of it where, you're visualizing what you want, but then there's like the part where you're actually taking action, inspired action in the direction of your dreams. And then as you're waiting for it to incubate, you're waiting for everything to kind of come together, that's the point where you let it go and you say, how this is all going to come about is none of my business. And it's like you're saying, okay, universe, you take over from here. And you're really kind of like letting it go, and you're allowing it to happen on its own. So, so that's interesting. And then the higher message is the King of Cups. Now, if this is like a romantic situation or something like this, this could be like a counselor or a clergy figure who can be of guidance. Like if Temperance is dealing with addiction, and maybe this isn't your problem, maybe this is your loved one's problem. And loved one could be a child. It doesn't have to be a spouse. You may, the hangman in that scenario would be kind of like, that's not tough love. What is it when, maybe ending codependency? There's another word for it. That you have to detach with love when you're dealing with somebody with an addiction. You can't, the opposite of that is becoming like obsessed with trying to stop them. And so the King of Cups could be, maybe it's time to see a counselor and, figure out how you can best deal with the situation. So I do see, when I see the King of Cups, I think of seeing a counselor. If, the hangman could be connected to Pisces, because the hangman is connected to Neptune. Neptune rules Pisces. So if you're dealing with a Sagittarian and a Pisces, the higher message is maybe that the Pisces person is more compatible with you, and definitely that would be the case, at least on the surface, looking at the two signs, because water versus fire, people who are water signs have a certain way of looking at life. And I think, just in my own experience being a Sagittarian, that I think sometimes water signs judge us as being kind of like pretty insensitive. And while there could be some truth to that, I just think it's a different way of kind of like expressing ourselves and looking at the world. I don't think it really, particularly indicates a mentality or anything like that, especially not a not nice one. It's just a different way of looking at the world. And so you may find that if this is a personal relationship, that this water sign person is emotionally mature, compassionate, and somebody that you can feel a sense of safety around, even like emotional safety. What crosses you is represented by the Lover's card. So in a romantic sense, it could be like maybe looking at the physical relationship, overemphasizing it instead of, are you truly compatible as partners? If this is, and also this can be like having a hard time making a choice or refusing to make a choice. And I actually got this card in the exact same position for another sign. I can't remember what sign it was. But what I said to that other sign was, maybe you don't need to make a decision tonight. Maybe you can put it off. But the point being that you are aware that you need to make a decision at all, and that you will make a point, dedicate time to really starting to make that decision little by little and looking at the entirety of the situation. So whether it's choosing between two people, deciding whether or not to stay with somebody who has an addiction, maybe like deciding whether or not your business is really viable. Any of these things can require more thought going into it, and not just a snap decision, but at least acknowledging that you need to make a decision. What is coming in, or the advice, is represented by the Moon card. This is a card that connects with perhaps deception coming from somebody, half-truths, being told something that technically is true, but they're leaving out certain important details, but just straight on deception. This card is associated with Pisces. So it could be like you're going to go with Pisces. This can be creativity. So perhaps you're somebody who, like, if with the Temperance card, if this is where you've had to kind of, you want a more relaxed type of a career. Maybe you're in a very fast-paced career that was too much, and you want something that is much more personal to you, creative. That could be featured here. This is also a card of spirituality and intuition. So using your intuition as advice to determine what choice to make. Not to necessarily look at it from the quote-unquote logical point of view. Sometimes the cards suggest, being more head than heart. But in this case, this would be more using your intuition for some reason. And the outcome is the Knight of Pentacles. This is just a straightforward card of, getting down, rolling up your sleeves and work. This is associated with Taurus. So it has that consistency, that desire to make money. In terms, and so it's a good money card. In terms of romantic, your romantic life, it's about somebody who is dependable. So maybe you have been attracted to somebody who's very exciting. Now, if this is a Sagittarian, They are going to be exciting, but part of that excitement is that they probably don't want to settle down, and it's almost like maybe a challenge to you, or maybe there's a part of you that enjoys that lack of stability. Maybe you have a moon in Gemini or Aquarius, and you kind of like blow hot and cold when it comes to commitment. And so it's really about choosing stability in order to have what you want, because you're a fixed sign, so you like consistency in everything in your life, including your partners. And so, and for job, this could be job security, something that is stable versus something that maybe is kind of fluctuating. And that's what temperance could be too. Maybe you've had kind of like these jobs that kind of like are not very, not permanent, contract work, I don't know. And you want something that is permanent, and you can have that for sure. So that's great. I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a private reading, Scorpio, the link to my website is below. Take care. Have a great month. Bye.